Nick Voltemada has completed his Newcastle United medical ahead of a £69 million move from Stuttgart, and they might not be finished there. Has the door been opened for a British record move to Liverpool for Alexander Isak? We have the latest on the transfer saga of the summer. While Tottenham have announced the signing of Xavi Simons in a deal worth £51 million. Hi there, welcome along to the transfer show. In exactly 3 days' time, I'm counting, the transfer window will be shut. This summer has smashed previous records, and it seems teams up and down the Premier League are far from finished. Here to discuss it all, James Savundra, Kaveh Solokol and sports agent Sky Andrew. Welcome along, everyone.
I've got no update from what I spoke about the other day. I'm concentrating on trying to bring players to the club.
Oh, it's nice for him to have another number 9.
I want Kobe to stay. He needs to fight for his place, and we need Kobe.
I think it's not possible at the moment to find a Guehi replacement.
I hope they get good news later today.
Don't ask me about the rumors and the potential rivals.
If we can strengthen the squad, then we will always try to do that.
The window transfer is open, so anything can happen, in and out.
Monday, I think 5 p.m. the window closes. I think you can have a look in a pub in London. 6 p.m. I will sit somewhere, order a pint.
On a scale of 1 to 100, how much are you looking forward to it closing, the window closing?
101.
Aren't we all? We start with the story that has dominated the window. Will Liverpool break the British transfer record to sign Alexander Isak? Newcastle United have opened the door after agreeing a club record deal of their own. £69 million for Stuttgart striker Nick Voltemada. So, what now for Isak?
Difficult for me to give you any clarity on the future, Keith. I've said before, I don't know what the future holds in that respect because I'm not dealing with it myself. I've got no update from what I spoke about the other day. I'm concentrating on trying to bring players to the club.
That's very nice for Eddie because Anthony Gordon is suspended and Isak has not been training with the team a lot, so it's nice for him to have another number 9.
What about in general terms though, how likely do you feel you are to add to your squad, whether it's another striker, whether it's a centre-up, whatever?
As always, we try to sign players that can help us, but there's no reason after the first 2 games to complain or to think we need more. But if we can strengthen the squad, then we will always try to do that if it's for the right money and it's the right player.
Yeah, those are thoughts of Eddie Howe and Arne Slot. Let's play a quick game of transfer domino, shall we? The final one seems to be Alexander Isak. Will that domino fall? The first one is about to. Nick Voltemada. Eddie Howe mentioned it there, James. Where are we with this deal?
We're very close to this deal being done. There could be an announcement later on this evening because he's completed his medical at Newcastle. He's been at St James's Park today finalising this move from Stuttgart. Eddie Howe said today that it's unlikely he'll be available and registered in time to play against Leeds tomorrow, which is a blow because currently they have one fit striker in the form of William Asula, who's got 2 Premier League goals. I think it's fair to say that he wasn't at the very top of their shopping list when it came to strikers this summer. They looked at João Pedro, Hugo Ekitike, Benjamin Sesko. They were players they targeted, but there's plenty of evidence to suggest that Voltemada could be a very, very good player. Bayern Munich have been in the market to try to sign him this summer, which tells you a lot. They wanted to bring him in to compete with and deputise for Harry Kane. He helped Germany under-21s to the final of the Euros this summer. He was the top scorer in the Euros. He's been described as the 2-metre Messi Musiala by his former captain at Stuttgart. 6'6", but plenty of technical ability as well. He fits the profile of the type of striker Eddie Howe wants, and Newcastle watched him for a number of years, so they've not just knee-jerked into this signing. It's a player they've liked for a long period of time, and he's very close to being announced as a Newcastle player.
Yeah, if we go back to last week, Newcastle's statement in response to Alexander Isak was that the terms and conditions of a sale were not met. Now, those terms and conditions were twofold. The price that they valued Isak at and bringing in 2 replacements. Voltemada looks like it's one. They need another one. Could it be Jürgen Strand-Larsen, Johan Wissa? Again, those two deals are complicated by Wolves and Brentford. Wolves don't want to sell. Brentford need a replacement of their own if they are to allow Wissa to go. They've made a bid for the Borussia Dortmund striker, Maximilian Bayer. Carve, there's so much going on just now with all of these deals. It's a bit like, I've called it transfer dominoes. You could almost call it a house sale as well, couldn't you? Because there's so many chains involved in this. But how will it end? Does it fall with Isak getting his move to Liverpool?
Well, I think he could on Monday, but I still think that Newcastle would need to sign another forward. They still haven't given up hope of signing Wissa or Strand-Larsen. I think if they sign one of those two players, then you have to wait and see what Liverpool do. We've seen Liverpool have been very, very disciplined in the transfer market. People talking about Liverpool making a bid of £150 million. I can never see that happening. They think the player is worth a British record sum. I think if they're going to go above that, it's not going to be much more than that. Maybe they'll change the terms of the deal or the structure of it a little bit. But Liverpool, I think, are still in a pretty strong position because they can bide their time until deadline day.
Sky, welcome along. Just in time as well, weren't you? Look, I'm sure you followed this saga, including those statements that were made by Alexander Isak and Newcastle United's response. A two-part question. One I put to Carve was, will Isak get his move? But also, how do you think you would have handled it had you been Alexander Isak's agent?
Well, I'll go to the latter first. This situation is driving a lot of people crazy, but what it is that you've got agents in the game that are, I would call them money agents. And there are other agents that actually look after players and make the right decisions for players. Now, let's just say, let's play devil's advocate here. Isak goes to Newcastle and he signs a 6-year contract without a buyout clause. Now, I want to explain to the public that a 6-year contract means to an agent 6 years of the gross income. So let's call it 10%. Let's say that Isak's on 100 grand a week, 5 million a year, 6-year contract, 30 million, let's call it 10%, 3 million commission. Now, an agent that says to a club, my commission is 3 million, I want it in 2 payments or in 3 payments. They can only say that if the club feels that the agent has helped the club. I call it a soft agent. So the problem with that is that, number one, a club is going to say, well, maybe we can give 2 payments, 3 payments, because, you know, this is a good situation for us. We've got a player under 6-year contract with no buyout clause. The problem with that is that as soon as the agent gets their last payment, they're looking for the next move. Now, you've noticed, and I don't want to pour scorn on my profession, but you've noticed that it's only Isak that is seen as the bad guy. There's something going on behind the scenes where he's being advised to behave in a certain way. But this isn't a good situation for football. If he gets his move, it isn't a good situation for football because there are young footballers out there looking at the situation and thinking, oh, right, that's the way to do it. Players have got to take responsibility for who looks after them. And it's quite obvious that world-class players need world-class advice. They need people that have got hindsight or foresight. If anybody's telling me that this player came into Newcastle and no one expected him to be successful, then why is he playing football? So now we have a situation where he's forcing himself into doing a move. Liverpool could quite rightly say to him, we want a 20-year contract with no buyout because he's got nowhere else to go.
Can I just ask you about the statement that Isak made? Because you had a situation there where he is claiming that promises were reneged upon. Now, as an agent...
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay.
Promises were reneged upon. We're in a multi-billion-pound industry. Any promises have to be put in black and white in a contract. If it's not put in a contract, then it doesn't exist. And for any agent to not put discussions, whatever promises were made have got to be put in a contract. If it's not in a contract, you can't expect anyone to honour it. And for the player to say that he was made promises, that's a reflection on his representatives. Because players just want to play football. And if they sit there with someone and say, oh, right, you know, the common saying is clubs will say, don't worry, just come and knock on our door, you know, when things are going well. That's just not good enough. He's a world-class asset. You can't blame Newcastle for giving him a 6-year contract, well played, right? But then when it comes down to the divorce has to be negotiated at the same time as the marriage. There are too many agents out there doing an average job, and I don't want to criticise this agent in particular because I'm not 100% sure what's going on behind the scenes. But this situation should never arise. And by the way, after 3 years, it's muted that he was supposed to get another contract. Okay, so he gets another contract after 3 years. That contract's got to be extended. So if he would have got this so-called contract, then his contract would have had to been extended. So what are we looking at now? Another 6 years? So then now he's saying he wants to leave with 5 years left on his contract. I just want the fans to understand, because sometimes fans don't understand what's going on, especially with agents and players. If a player signs a long-term contract, they have to honour the contract. And the fans have to tell every player, honour your contract. And don't have a go at the ones that do.
Okay, don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
More
Carve's here. Do you know what I mean? White Jacket Man is here. I'm here all night.
Oh, is there a danger if Isak gets this move now this summer that contracts are effectively meaningless? Because Newcastle put themselves in a brilliant position. He's got 3 years left on his contract, but because of the way that he's behaved and whatever's gone on behind the scenes, effectively that 3-year contract isn't counting for a huge amount right now.
Yeah. I mean, this situation is not good for football. Because as a great man in football said to me once, if you don't have rules and regs, then it's the wild, wild west. So look at Declan Rice, right? He just didn't sign a contract. He went down to 1 year and left, right? What's the matter to sell him, right? Trent, no matter what you say about Trent honoured his contract. If Trent wanted to leave with 3 years to go, what would people have been saying? Players have to honour their contracts unless there's something put in front of them. If they get the advice, which I know some players do get, just sign this contract and don't worry, if someone wants to buy you, they'll come and buy you. Well, if you've got 3 years left, there's only a few clubs that can actually pay the money. So it's not good for football. Young players, they've got to have good representation, good advice, structure your contract for success, and then if you're successful, you can leave.
Okay, let's turn our attention to Tottenham Hotspur, because they've missed out, didn't they, on Morgan Gibbs-White. They missed out on Eberiche Eze. But in the past couple of hours, finally some good news, James.
Xavi Simons is a Tottenham player. The 22-year-old signed today. Thomas Frank delayed his press conference by an hour. He didn't give a reason for it, but clearly what was going on behind the scenes is Tottenham were finalising the deal to bring Xavi Simons to Tottenham. They finally have a number 10. It's a serious contract. It's a 5-year contract, which includes the option of a further 2 years. That's our understanding right now. And as you rightly say, it brings to an end their search for a number 10. And actually, they've spent beyond £170 million in Thomas Frank's first summer transfer window. So they have backed him. They're going to keep trying to back him because we understand they want to sign a left winger as well. We had reported they're trying to sign a centre-back. I'm not sure whether or not that will be possible. Their next focus will be a left winger. Simons will be at the game tomorrow. He's expected to be presented to the Spurs fans ahead of tomorrow's game against Bournemouth. And he spoke earlier on today about the role that Thomas Frank played in bringing him to Tottenham and convincing him to go to North London.
Really happy as well for my family. We've been dreaming this a long time ago, so my whole family, the most important people for me, they are here with me. Always in my career, they've been with me, so being with them and this moment is just a special moment. First of all, the project, I think it suits with me. And yeah, the second thing, I think the most important thing for me is the coach. I spoke to him, he showed me a presentation that really impacted me, and that was the final decision for me, like, okay, the right coach, right people. And I think, and I really believe in that we'll achieve really, really good things here.
Yeah, good news for Tottenham Hotspur. Xavi Simons is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Carve, you've reported throughout this window that Chelsea were interested, wanting to sign Simons, were they ever going to go in last minute and disappoint Tottenham Hotspur fans again?
I think up until, 5 or 6 p.m. last night, they were considering whether to make a bid for the player. It's well documented that they've been interested in signing him all summer, but there's a difference between being interested in someone and making a firm offer for the player. And they never ended up making a firm offer for him. Now, it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because they didn't think he was worth the money that Spurs are willing to pay for him. It could be that financially Chelsea can't do the deal because they need to buy and sell players. It could be it was dependent on Jackson and Nkunku being sold, and only Nkunku has been sold this week. It could be because they've spent a lot of their remaining budget on Garnacho. So it could be a lot of reasons why they didn't make that bid. But the bottom line is, all summer they were interested in him. They've got a very, very close relationship with his representatives. But when push came to shove and they were told Spurs have made this offer, unless you make a bid, he's going to Spurs, they decided not to make a bid.
Sky, you've dealt with Spurs in the many years you've been in the game. I won't give away how many years you've been in the game. The unfortunate tag of Spursy has followed them.
Right.
How important was it for them to get this deal over the line, particularly given what's happened in this window?
This is a Spurs deal. It's a sensible number. They've got a young player on a long-term contract with some resale value at the end of it. People were talking about other deals that Spurs was allegedly going for. But once players get to 27, 28, 29, there's no resale value. And that isn't a Spurs deal. Spurs find good young players and pay sensible money and then look to get a resale value. It's a perfect Spurs deal.
Perfect Spurs deal. Let's see if they continue to go into the market for the rest of this transfer window. OK, next up, we are talking Manchester United. Over £200 million spent on a new front three, but it appears to be crisis time already for Ruben Amorim. More next.
That kind of performance, I was really disappointed with everything. Sometimes I hate my players, sometimes I love my players, sometimes I want to defend my players, sometimes I want to quit, sometimes I want to be here for 20 years. You have a lot of experienced people talking about the way I should perform with the media, to be more constant, to be more calm. I'm not going to be like that. I need to live this day by day. I'm understanding that. And I'm going to be like that all the time. So prepare you.
Tumultuous start to the season for Manchester United. 1 point from their opening 2 Premier League games, followed by that humiliating exit in the Carabao Cup at the hands of Grimsby Town. Carve, Manchester United have spent £200 million this summer. Brand new front three, Cunha, Mbeumo, Šeško. And yet we're talking about a club in crisis. How is this happening?
Because it's Manchester United. Everything that happens at Manchester United is box office, it's back page news. I think in the old days on Fleet Street, sports editors used to say you can never go wrong by filling your pages full of stories about Manchester United. Basically what's happened is they got knocked out of the Carabao Cup in a game they drew and then they lost on penalties. The goalkeeper made some more mistakes. They played pretty well against Arsenal. I think it's not a crisis at any other club, but it's a crisis because it's Manchester United. Everything that happens at United is either a triumph or a crisis. It's always back page news. And I think Ruben Amorim, he's a very emotional person. He's a very honest person. But maybe he's underestimated how much everything he says and does is under the microscope and is going to get scrutinised and talked about, not just by us, but also on social media. But that's what happens when you're the manager of Manchester United.
Yeah, and a number of players are under the microscope as well, particularly ones that have been linked with a move away from Old Trafford before Monday's deadline. Here's what Ruben Amorim had to say about Kobbie Mainoo today.
I want Kobe to stay. He needs to fight for his place, and we need Kobe. So that is not going to change. The rest, I don't know how he's going to finish. I understand that the players that are not playing in this moment are disappointed, but everyone has the same, will have the same opportunity to play. You have to fight during the week.
So Ruben Amorim says Kobe Mainoo has to fight for his place. He said that he wants to go on loan for the rest of this season to get more game time, Sky. Manchester United say, no, we don't want to do that. We're not going to countenance a loan move at all. If you were in the shoes of Mainoo's representatives, what kind of advice would you be giving him? And is the advice he's been given to make it clear he wants to go on loan the best advice?
Look, the first thing a good representative says to young players is you have to win your battles. If you don't try and win your battles, you're going to go somewhere else, and then if it doesn't work out for you, then you're going to be in the same scenario. I don't know what's going on at Manchester United. What's bloody going on? You know, I mean, why are these young players wanting to leave one of the biggest clubs in the world? For me, there's no excuse. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world. They've got unbelievable funding, incredible infrastructure. Other clubs shouldn't be competing at a higher level than them. And young players shouldn't want to leave a club like Man United. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but for one thing, I think that good young players should have Man United at the top of their list. And just an example of a young player saying, I want to leave, is not good PR. It's not a good image. You know, in my view, Man United should be trying to come to some kind of arrangement with Kobe Mainoo for him to stay and be part of the team. Because young players leaving all the time is just not a good look.
James, Sky says young players should not be in a position where they want to leave Manchester United, but Kobe Mainoo is not the only one, is he?
No, Alejandro Garnacho looks like he's going to go as well, but Rasmus Højlund, and I think Manchester United fans have a huge amount of sympathy for Rasmus Højlund because at the start of pre-season he looked really good, but things changed very quickly as soon as Benjamin Sesko became a United player. It looks like he's going to travel to Naples in the next 24 to 48 hours. That's what Naples hope anyway. We're just waiting for the final bits to be agreed when it comes to personal terms. His representatives are in Naples right now. There's growing confidence that a full agreement can be reached. There's an agreement in principle that Rasmus Højlund will join Napoli on loan with an obligation to buy at the end of the season, and that obligation to buy in total, this will cost around £40 million, which is what Manchester United were looking for, and that obligation is dependent on Napoli qualifying for the Champions League. And bearing in mind they won Serie A last season, it seems likely that this is going to be a permanent exit for Rasmus Højlund. And the reason why there's sympathy is this guy came in 2 years ago to lead the line for Manchester United at such a young age after having an impressive spell at Atlanta where he scored 8 or 9 goals. He was never the right player to be leading the line for Manchester United, but because of the way things worked out of injuries and lack of signings, he had to lead the line. He was successful in Europe, in the Premier League not so much. I think in an ideal world, I think United would love to keep this player on the books and alone him come back after a season at AC Milan and reassess him and him come in and compete with Benjamin Sesko. But because of the business they've done, there is a need to bring in money, and £40 million does represent good business considering the 2 years that Højlund's been there for.
Yeah, and it's not just Rasmus Højlund, is it, that Manchester United are looking to sell or offload. Antony is one. Real Betis increasingly confident now that they can strike a deal alone with an obligation. That one could be worth over £30 million eventually. Tyrell Malacia, Elche, one of a number of clubs who are interested. He's got 1 year left on his contract, but United are happy to see him go on loan. Jadon Sancho, possibly the 4th or 5th transfer window in a row we are talking about him. He could yet remain at Manchester United because there doesn't seem to be anything as concrete as the other players just now. Roma are interested. There are Saudi clubs interested, Turkish clubs interested as well, but he doesn't seem anywhere closer to a move. Carve, James mentioned his name there at the top, Alejandro Garnacho. That one does look closer to departure, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the move that he wanted. Compromise was reached. Chelsea paying £40 million, probably a little bit more than Chelsea wanted to pay. a little bit less than United wanted. He's been having his medical today, and we're just waiting for official confirmation that he is now a Chelsea player.
So, Chelsea for Garnacho, can you see them doing any more ins or outs?
Well, I think they're still in talks to sign a goalkeeper. The goalkeeper from Royal Antwerp, they're in talks to bring him in. I still think they need more. When you look at the way they've been performing, okay, they've totally changed their front line, but I still think they need, to look at the goalkeeping situation. Midfield as well doesn't look exactly right, but time's running out.
And what about Chelsea? Ins and outs there, potentially. You mentioned Garnacho. Do you think they can bring anyone else in, or
Chelsea?
On sales?
Chelsea are always spinning plates. They're always trading players. Players are coming, players are going. I think there'll be more players coming in, more players going out. They're in talks to take Buonanotte from Brighton. Interesting deal for Chelsea to be taking a player on loan from Brighton, and Brighton saying this is just a loan, no option, no obligation. We're just sending him to Chelsea because he can't get into our side, but we think he'll get more game time at Chelsea. But I think obviously Chelsea missed out on Xavi Simons. They think financially this deal makes sense, and there's question marks over Cole Palmer's injury at the moment. So they do need another attacking midfielder, although when you look at their squad, Enzo Maresca has got plenty of other options as well.
Sky Carvey says Chelsea loves spinning plates. Are Chelsea an agent's dream at the moment?
In short, yes. Because Chelsea are always doing deals. There are some clubs that don't do as many deals, and they spend a bit more time deciding on whether or not they're going to take a player. But Chelsea, wow. I mean, Chelsea pay well. They spend big. But to be fair to Chelsea, they do sell players as well. It's not like they're just bringing players in. You could say it's a bit of a spinning door, but they are very clever in the way in which they bring players in, put them on long contracts, and then just decide to sell them. So as long as you're making money on players, the ins and outs make sense. But you were talking about Man United. The problem Man United have got is that a lot of the names you mentioned, they're selling them for less than what they got them for. And you can't keep doing that. So as long as Chelsea bring in players and then... You see, clubs bring in players, they play them, they might like them, they might not like them. But if you bring them in, you've got to make sure that you accrue a profit on them. Otherwise, you're going to have problems.
Just very quickly, when they were offering, and they still do, the players these long contracts,
yeah,
I think a lot of people were pretty sceptical, but overall it seems to be working. If you're the representative of a player who's going to go to Chelsea and they're offering a 7, 8, 9 year contract, is that something that you think, yes, jump at it, or do you say, actually, I want to weigh up my options closer to the time that I sign, so maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, rather than being tied down to something that's 7 or 8 years?
I spoke earlier about money agents. To a money agent, Chelsea is the golden land. Chelsea is Barbados sitting on the west coast with a martini. Because if Chelsea are going to give a player a 9-year contract, an agent can say, I want 5 or 10% of that guaranteed contract and I want it paid like this. So, yeah, Chelsea is a great place to go for agents. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a few deals there.
You'll be on the phone any second. Don't go anywhere. Arsenal have already spent big this summer. We'll discuss what final moves they could make. That's coming up next.
Cole Palmer signed a 9-year contract.
Hi there, welcome back. Time now to go around the club for your bite-sized Premier League roundup. Who should we start with, Carve?
Because they're still pushing to get a deal done for Bayer Leverkusen defender Piero Hincapié.
Aston Villa are understood to be in talks with Paris Saint-Germain to sign Marco Asensio.
Bournemouth are in advanced talks with AC Milan over the signing of right-back Alex Jimenez.
This happened in the last hour or so. Brentford have had a £45 million bid rejected by Borussia Dortmund for forward Max Bayer.
Fabian Hertzler has said he's 100% confident Carlos Baleba will remain a Brighton player by the end of the window.
Burnley have agreed a deal in principle with Benfica for midfielder Florento Luis.
Chelsea are in talks with Brighton over the loan signing of Facundo Buonanotte.
Crystal Palace have signed Spain winger Yeremy Pino from Villarreal in a deal worth up to £26 million.
David Moyes revealed the club could do more business before Monday's deadline, in particular adding more competition in defence.
Fulham have been so quiet, but they are making progress towards an agreement for Shakhtar winger Kevin.
Leeds United were looking at signing Facundo Buonanotte on loan, but it looks like they've lost out to Chelsea.
Newcastle have opened the door for Liverpool to make a British record bid for Alexander Isak with the potential signing of Nick Valdemada.
AC Milan are working on a deal to sign Manchester City defender Manuel Akanji. That's according to Sky in Italy. Manchester
United midfielder Kobe Mainoo has requested a loan move to get more game time this season, but Ruben Amorim wants him to stay and fight for his place.
Nick Waltemade has completed his Newcastle medical ahead of that club record £69 million move.
Juventus right-back Nicolo Savona is flying to the UK to undergo a medical and complete his move to Nottingham Forest.
Sunderland manager Regis Lebris says the club are looking to strengthen in one or two positions before the window closes.
Good news finally for Tottenham. They've completed the signing of Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig in a deal worth £51 million.
Now, West Ham United have confirmed the signing of Matheus Fernandes from Southampton. The deal worth £42 million.
Wolves head coach Vitor Pereira has refused to confirm Jurgen Strand-Larsen will remain at the club beyond the transfer deadline.
Yeah, as Carve mentioned there are plenty of reports linking Arsenal with a move for Pierre Hincapié and hijacking Tottenham's approach for the Bayer Leverkusen defender. Mikel Arteta wouldn't bite, though.
Hincapié. His name's been linked with you before the window closes. Bayer Leverkusen, again, the fact that he's versatile is the kind of player you like.
You know the answer to that. I cannot talk about players that are not part of our squad.
Well, we're going to come back to Arsenal in just a moment, but a bit of breaking news to bring you here on the Transfer Show. And it is someone we have mentioned earlier on in the show, the Manchester United forward Antony. We're told now in the past few minutes that Manchester United have now accepted a bid from Real Betis for Antony. It's a permanent transfer. They've given Antony permission to travel. It is now up to both parties, Real Betis and Antony, to agree on personal terms. So Manchester United have accepted a bid from Real Betis for the permanent transfer of Antony. More on that as we get it here on Sky Sports News. OK, let's head back now to Arsenal. James, we saw Mikel Arteta there. He's not giving much away with regard to Hincapié, but I think you can. How close are we?
Well, they're still pushing to get this deal done. This really would be the icing on the cake for Arsenal. It's been a brilliant transfer window. If they can sign Hincapié, then it really marks pretty much a 10 out of 10 window for the club, you'd have to say. Some progress is being made, but there is work to be done. The clubs remain in talks over a loan with an obligation to buy. We've been speaking about there being a release clause in Hincapié's contract of around £52 million. That's a figure that Arsenal are negotiating because whilst they could go and pay the £52 million and get the job done, that's probably not what they're in a position to do right now because they do need to make sales to be in a position to go and spend that money right away. So that's why they're negotiating rather than paying up this release clause. The player himself, he wants to go to Arsenal. Personal terms, we don't think they're going to be a problem in this deal. And this move for Hincapié could accelerate Jakub Kiwior's move to Porto, a loan with an obligation to buy worth around £26 million. That's in place. They bought him in 2023 for £20 million. He's given them good service, but I think Arsenal feel they can once again get better players in these positions. They're in a real position of strength right now. They're going to get even better if Hincapié comes in and Kiwior departs for Porto.
Yeah, he could be their 8th summer signing if that deal was to materialise. A couple of other potential departures at Arsenal. Alexander Zinchenko, Marseille are interested. He's into the final year of his contract. And Fabio Vieira, we mentioned earlier on in this transfer window that Stuttgart were in talks. Well, they remain in talks. He's got 2 years left on his contract. So definitely a few to watch there. Ins at Arsenal and possibly outs as well. Let's go to Crystal Palace now and the saga that is their captain, Mark Guehi. He's been linked with a move to Liverpool, But his manager, Oliver Glasner, believes it's too late to leave the club in this transfer window.
From my side, and it's Friday and the window closes on Monday, he has to. He has to, because it's not possible, I think it's not possible at the moment to find a Mark Guehi replacement who can play straight in the Premier League, being a starter for Crystal Palace, being consistent. And when we see, I think, our foundation, or the foundation of the success we had in the last couple of months, and also the foundation of going into the group stage, is our defence.
Oliver Glasner, the Crystal Palace head coach. It's too late for Mark Guehi to leave, Carve, is it?
I think from a manager's perspective, yes, definitely. Mark Guehi has got a very close bond with Oliver Glasner. He is the most experienced player on the pitch, the most experienced defender on the pitch. Glasner doesn't want to lose him at all. But I don't think everybody at Crystal Palace would necessarily share the same opinions as Oliver Glasner, because we've heard Steve Parish say publicly, we can't have a situation where a player leaves on a free transfer next summer, a player as good as Mark Guehi. So either he's got to sign a new contract, or we're going to have to look at maybe accepting an offer for him. So I think it all depends on what happens in the next few days, because who knows, maybe after Liverpool play on Sunday, you could have a situation where Liverpool make an official bid for him. Then I think Crystal Palace would have a big decision to make. And it's interesting, as James has been reporting, that they are in the market for centre-backs.
We'll come to you in a moment on those centre-backs, James. Sky, Carve mentioned there that they can't afford to lose him on a free transfer at the end of his contract. You don't know anything about that kind of situation, do you?
I don't know anything about top centre-backs going on a free transfer, so don't ask me. Guehi is a classy guy. Look at the way the guy's conducted himself. Young players all across the land, look at this guy. He's honouring his contract, he's playing for his club, he's captain of his club. You don't hear a peep out of him. You don't hear him making demands or anything like that. But, you know, the manager's point of view, but it's not the manager's money, right? The manager just wants to coach the team. So from the manager's point of view, it's too late for him to go. But from the club's point of view, they can't afford to have a player of that level walk out the door on a free. But when you're dealing with a player who's got that kind of character and that kind of class and level of play, what can you do as a club? Literally, they are going to have to watch him playing for Crystal Palace the whole of the season and then walking out on a free. Unless someone can have a conversation with him. And this is where I'll say it, and I'll say it again. Clubs need people in the building to understand the psyche of players and agents. Because once you understand their narrative, then it's easier for you to make a decision early. But now, for the club, they're in an impossible situation. It's the meeting of two rockets in the sky. Mark Guehi has got himself into a situation where he can't lose. Palace now have got to make a decision. If it's purely financial and they want the manager to not be happy, they do a deal before Monday.
So the manager not be happy, but we mentioned that just before that they are looking at potential replacements, aren't they?
Yeah, they're looking at a young centre-back. They're trying to sign JD Camvot from Toulouse. The two clubs have come pretty much very close to an agreement now, and now it's up to the young defender to decide. He's just 19 years of age, but one of the most promising centre-backs in Europe. It's understood he's turned down a number of Premier League clubs already this summer. But this pursuit is not linked to Mark Guehi. They've been looking to sign a young centre-back, a player for the future anyway this summer. They will look to sign a ready-made replacement if Guehi was to depart, and that's why Manuel Akanji is a player they've considered. But AC Milan also want to sign him too.
I just want to say there's always a deal to be done. Always. There is a deal to be done with Mark Guehi and his representatives and the manager and the ownership in the room. But it's just as I say, you need people that are communicating with players and agents on a regular basis so they understand the narrative and so that they know what decisions to make.
3 days to go. Still to come, we'll discuss PSG goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. Could we see him in the Premier League?
agent.
OK, welcome back to the transfer show. Let's talk Gianluigi Donnarumma, one of the biggest names who could move in this transfer window. Carve, could we see him in the Premier League?
I think he's one of those players you could see moving on deadline day. What's happening is that PSG and his representatives are working hard to try and find him a new club. We all know that he's not going to stay at PSG. He's been linked with Manchester City. I think there's at least one other Premier League club who are also interested in taking him. And I think as the clock ticks, the closer we get to the deadline, the better the terms will be for the clubs who are interested in signing him. That's why I think they're waiting until the last minute to make a move for him, because everybody knows he's not staying at PSG. So why pay over the odds today when it's going to be cheaper tomorrow, cheaper on Sunday and cheaper on Monday?
Yeah, but there still is that cloud that, you know, he could end up staying and have to revisit in January, however unlikely that is. Sky, from an agent's perspective on this deal, PSG clearly don't want him. He's into the final year of his contract. He's on big wages. All parties want a move to be sorted. And with 3 days to go, he still hasn't got a move. Who's to blame here?
It's such a strange situation. But I think PSG are still reeling from the Mbappe circus. Because Donnarumma he's going to be in his last year, isn't he?
He's entered the last year, yeah.
So I just think that after what happened with Mbappe, PSG are just thinking, right, we're not having another situation like that. Because it just doesn't make sense. Donnarumma is the best goalkeeper in the world. You know, he won the Champions League with them, and then they've just decided, you know, not only have they just said, we're going to sell you, they've just bombed him. You know, that's what you do to a player that you don't really want or you don't think is that good. But a player of his level, and then you're not hearing so many people coming in for him. Maybe it's the wages, maybe it's what PSG are demanding, but a player of his quality available. And you're quite right, as we get closer to the transfer deadline, the price is going to go down, but there's still very few clubs that can afford his wages.
Carve, staying with PSG, another one of their players could be heading to the Premier League as well. A familiar face.
Yeah, Marco Asensio, who was at Villa on loan last season. I think he's in talks again, PSG, with Villa about him returning to the club. We know that Aston Villa have had some PSR issues earlier this summer. Those have all been sorted out, and it'd be great to see him back in the Premier League.
Just very, very quickly, 5 seconds each, £2.69 billion has been spent. It's a record spend. How much will that figure be, do you think, by the end?
How much of that did you get?
Well, the thing is that...
how much of that did you get?
The thing is that...
10%.
The thing is that they're going to put those figures out, and then they're going to put out how much agents got, and then that's when everyone's going to get upset.
Go through $3 billion, do you think, Carve, with the deals that could happen?
You know, I'm a modern football fan. I want to see the net figure. I can't just go on what's been spent.
Yeah.
OK, you're not, James. You want to see the big
thing will happen, especially if Isak comes in for 150 million.
Yeah. James, Carve, Sky, thank you very much indeed. That's all from the transfer show. Less than 3 days to go until deadline day. More on Sky Sports News on all the day's deals coming up next. Stay with us.